Good morning, everyone. I'd like to say welcome. This is the collaborative leadership series for our single site superintendents across the state of Arizona. Today, our call is going to be started with Nicole Van Pris. She's the Deputy Associate Superintendent at ADE, and Kristen Morris, who is also a fiscal monitoring trainer. And they are doing a presentation about the fiscal monitoring process that anyone would go through if they do get fiscal monitoring and GME. And then we will move to another section of grants management for the second half of this call. So welcome, Nicole and Kristen.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Am I able to share my screen?
Yes, you can. Right at the bottom, it is the box with the arrow.
Got it. Thank you.
And we see it. You are good to go.
Excellent. All right. So thank you again for the introduction. We will just get started. Since she orders, we're going to get right into it.
Okay, everybody. So thank you for joining us and having us at your meeting today. Just to get an idea of any extra things that we might talk about, we wanted to get a gauge on your familiarity with some of the things we do here at Grants Management. So if you wouldn't mind using the chat and just on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being new or like less than a year of experience to 5 feeling like you're kind of an expert at it, just give us an idea of how familiar you feel with the following topics. So we're going to go one at a time. The first one is the Grants Management Enterprise, GME. So this is our main page where you go to complete reimbursement requests. Everything related to management is done in GME.
Oh, good.
Great.
3s and 4s. And it's okay if you have a 1.
All right. Excellent. The next one, the reimbursement request. So if you've submitted one, if you're familiar with the process.
Okay. 4, 1, 4, 1. Good.
Indirect cost rate. So this is a yearly supplement. It's a little bit more nuanced. So if you don't have a ton of experience with it, that's okay. All right. Yep. Lots of 1s or 0.
Okay.
Yep. And grants management reports. So these are reports that grants management provides to you. We have the risk assessment and the fiscal monthly report.
Okay. Great. Okay. Excellent. All right. So we're going to start the day off with a pop quiz. Because who doesn't like walking into a training and answering questions? Where should you look if you have questions about an upcoming grant-related due date or timeline? Please use your chat. Where would you look if you have questions about a timeline for your grants or... oh my goodness. All right. Absolutely right. The answer is the GME homepage. We want to make sure that you guys are referencing the homepage often. It gets updated at least monthly. At the beginning of each month, you're going to get anything that's time sensitive for that current month. So don't forget to check there, especially if it has to do with a grant, a reimbursement, timeline, supplements, indirect costs, risk assessments, etc. Our team consists of 4 sections. We have our fiscal monitors. Kristen is our trainer for the fiscal monitoring team. We have our fiscal processors. We have a tech team, and we have a training team. This is our org chart. You can see we all fall under the CFO, and we are part of the finance unit at ADE. Our technology team, the ones that are going to give you help with the GME system, and that's internal and external user support. If you need to submit a help desk ticket, if you've got issues with access, they can help you with trends, things that are happening in the system. They also kind of keep their finger on the pulse of system outages. Like if something happens within the GME system that creates users not to be able to access, if we're getting a lot of those robots, when something doesn't work, they will know. And in those instances, we'll publish something on our homepage to let you know, like, hey, we understand that there's currently a problem. So stay tuned for update kind of information.
So we tend to get a lot of questions from the field about how access is granted for GME. And this is a really great visual to kind of understand how things work for us here on the backside. So you have ADE Connect. ADE Connect is kind of like the Amazon Fire Stick. So it's an umbrella system that houses all of the individual apps that you need for access. So like your Fire Stick is, the umbrella, and then you can download Netflix, Hulu, ESPN Plus, whatever have you. Very similar to how ADE Connect works. So ADE Connect is your overarching access, and then whatever ADE applications you may need to use in your role, you would then grant access through there. So grants management being the one that we deal with the most. You're also going to have EMAT, your certification portal, all of those things. So while we do control GME, we do not control the overarching umbrella. So all of these other systems we don't have a say in, but we are always going to be your stop for grants management enterprise GME.
Also, as we go through this, if you have questions, you can just drop any question in chat and we can address them at that moment. So part of the part of our fiscal processing team, we have our grants coordinators, and we call them GCs just because it's an abbreviated term. They're the ones that you're interacting with if you have a reimbursement request, if you are submitting your completion report, if you're applying for indirect cost rates. They're the ones who process the Title I maintenance of effort. And their target is 4 LEAs per month to give technical assistance through Teams. So each member on the grants coordinator team, their goal is to make sure that they're meeting with 4 LEAs, at least 4 LEAs per month, to provide like screen sharing, Teams virtual assistance to an LEA that may be stuck. So know that if you get stuck, you can reach out to the grants coordinators or GCs.
And then we have our fiscal monitoring team. So we conduct all of the fiscal monitoring. Again, just to remember, the monitoring that we do here at Grants Management is different than the programmatic monitorings that you would have done, where they're focusing on one area. When we monitor here at Grants Management, we're looking at all of the grants within a fiscal year. We also deal with the single audit. So I know a lot of you are smaller sites. Everybody is required to complete the single audit qualifier questionnaire, but many, if not most of you, are not required to do anything further, which is submitting a single audit reporting package. The single audit reporting package is required if you're expending $750,000 or more in federal funds. But the questionnaire is the one that is required to be done by everybody. So if you haven't done that by now, you're on hold. The questionnaire is due to be completed by December 31st of every year. We open the questionnaire in October, and it takes about 2 to 3 minutes of your time to complete that questionnaire. Our fiscal monitoring team will also do outreach. So as we're getting closer to the holidays and we see a lot of outstanding single audit qualifier questionnaires, we may just give you a call to remind you. Things can get really busy at that time of year. So we certainly don't want that to fall to the wayside and then you'd be put on hold for it because it is pretty easy to complete.
And that threshold will go up for the next single audit. It went up in the CFR to $1 million in federal spending a year.
Okay, and then we have our grants training team. So our training team, each one of the trainers has a specialty area. So like I'm the grants fiscal monitoring trainer. We also have a trainer for the tech team and for the fiscal processing team, the GCs. We conduct internal trainings here with ADE staff as well as external training like we're doing here with webinars, forums. We had our big conference in the summer. So we're kind of here to support all best practices and help guide you through the grant cycle. We offer trainings monthly. You would see that information on the GME homepage, and you can sign up for trainings through APLD. So definitely keep an eye out. We also have, I'm going to put information in the chat. We do have a training inbox. So if there's something that you feel like you need resources for or some technical assistance, you can always reach out to us and one of our 3 training team members will get back to you and set something up with you. So I'm going to put that information in the chat right now. And we'd be happy to hear from you and assist you.
Okay, it's time for another pop quiz. You need assistance with submitting your reimbursement request. Who should you reach out to at ADE? Should you reach out to A, your grants coordinator, B, your program area specialist, C, your IT tech team, or D, your fiscal monitoring team? Please enter your note in the chat. If you need assistance submitting a reimbursement request.
Yep. So we're getting a lot of grant coordinator, vice coordinator, A.
Excellent. And it is your grants coordinator that you would want to reach out to, specifically with help with a reimbursement request. And so that leads us to this section. It's difficult sometimes to know. ADE, we're split in 2 different buildings. We have multiple floors of staff. And we all kind of have our own little niche role. And so it's important if we can give you some guidelines on when to reach out to our team or when to reach out to the program areas. And knowing that that's not the only people at the agency who would help you, but usually interacting with an LEA, it's going to be a program area person or a grant management person. And so this graphic, and like I said, we will share this with Kristen. This graphic might help you kind of distinguish program areas. They're the ones that are going to be your specific federal grant liaison. They're going to determine your allocations. They're going to approve your funding application based on allowability and your grant revisions. They're going to support you. They're going to do monitoring of grant requirements through EMAC. They might do site visits. They do that programmatic monitoring. And then they also provide communication. They do trainings. They have conferences. And so it would be easy from the LEA perspective to not be certain, like, wait, that's a different type of training than what the grants management team does. So if you look to the right of this slide, you'll see the grants management team. We're more of the hub. We're like a centralized fiscal operations team. And so while a program area is going to review and approve specific grants that are assigned to that program that come from that federal office, some of them might be state grants. The grants management team, we're going to process all of those fiscal transactions for all of the grants, reimbursement requests, completion reports, all the closeout for all of the grants. The grants management enterprise system, which houses your funding applications, it allows you to apply for indirect costs. It contains your maintenance of effort. It's your fiscal monitoring. It's your single audit submission tool. So the GME system is kind of run through the grants management team. We also provide communication and training to the field, but it's more about the central services that we offer that are those fiscal processes related to the grants that run through our team. Does anybody have questions about the difference between the program area versus grants management? All good so far. Moving right along. Well, this would be a good time for another quiz question. So you're filling out your grant funding application and you realize that your allocation seems smaller than you thought it would be. Who at ADE should you reach out to in this instance? Would you reach out to A, the CFO, B, grants management, C, school finance, or D, the program area that offers and approves the grant? If you have questions about your allocation, and it's okay if you don't know the answer, give it your best guess, and we'll kind of go through
the program
area. That's actually correct because allocations are created and determined at the program area, while grants management are the team that loads those allocations into the funding application. The program area is the one who creates them. They determine them based on whatever formula or eligibility criteria is used for that particular funding source. So good job for those people who selected D. The next thing that we're going to talk about just very briefly, each year, your organization probably receives indirect or claims indirect costs. And those are those central service expenses to run payroll, HR, those organization-wide expenses. Even smaller LEAs have administrative expenses that are organization-wide. Like I said, payroll, HR, utility costs, those types of things. Things to run the organization are usually paid for with indirect costs. Your indirect cost rate must be applied for each year. The supplement is within grants management enterprise. If you aren't the person who applies for those rates each year, a nice bullet list of to-dos would be find out who in your organization is responsible for that. Usually the supplement would be open from January to June. Because this is the first year that our carry forward is being applied. Carry forward is over or under recovery of indirect costs from 2 years ago. So it's not that complicated, but it certainly is muddy. And so this year, the supplement is a little late in opening to our LEAs because the carry forward formula was not functioning properly and it wasn't displaying in GME. So that has been resolved. It should be open anytime now. So we had to test it. It looks like everything was firing correctly. But if you're not the person in your organization who applies for indirect costs, if you would please make yourself a note to find out who does apply for indirect costs, only because we do know when we get audited, the auditors look for LEAs who have been approved and who are claiming indirect costs. So if you're claiming them and you would show that on your AFR each year, if you're claiming indirect costs, which I'm sure you would be, you want to make sure that you have a valid rate. You should not be claiming indirect costs before your rate is valid for the fiscal year. So our team can assist you with your application. Like I said, normally it would be open January 1st, and we just have worked with our vendor to make sure that it's working correctly. So you should see that in the system. If it's not there today, it'll be there any day. Open and available for FY27.
To touch on another report that we offer to all LEAs, we have the risk assessment report. So I know we asked about that a little bit earlier in one of our pub quizzes, and it looked like there wasn't too much familiarity about it. So I want to go ahead and talk to you guys about it and then actually show you how to locate. So the risk assessment report is available to LEAs each July. We go ahead and we upload that document into your LEA document library in GME. The LEA document library is not public. It is only accessible to those people within your organization who have access. So you don't have to worry about anybody seeing this who shouldn't or you wouldn't want to. The risk assessment report provides detailed performance information specific to your LEA. So we ask that you please download it and have conversations with the people who play a role in any of the scored risk indicators. This information comes from a lot of different areas. It doesn't come just from us at Grants Management. There's information that comes from the Auditor General, from school finance. Okay, so there's a lot of different areas that have a say in the scores on the risk assessment. A big piece of the risk assessment we get asked a lot when we conducted fiscal monitoring is, well, why were we chosen? Why were we selected? The risk assessment really guides the frequency and priority of fiscal monitoring based on risk scores. So you get 3 scores: low, medium, or high. So you can imagine that an LEA who is consistently high risk would be fiscally monitored more frequently than one that is low to medium. I want to go ahead and just show you where you can pull up your risk assessment report. So just a little walkthrough in GME. On that main left blue menu, that's your main navigation menu, you would want to choose the tab for LEA document library. When you click on that, you're going to see this search here. You always want to make sure that you're working in the correct year. So the report that's uploaded right now would have been the fiscal year 2026 risk assessment. 2027 will be the one that is uploaded to you here in just a couple of months in July. You'd go ahead, you choose 2026 and hit search folders. You'd see here you have your 2026, you're going to want to go ahead and click on the plus sign to expand that. And you're going to scroll down until you see the section for risk assessment report. Once you expand that section, you'll see documents, LEA risk assessment report. Go ahead and expand that, and you will then see your report. So you can look at it, you can download it, you can print it, and you can go back as many years as your organization has been in GME, and you can maybe see, hey, from 2024 to 2026, we took a big hit to our score. Why is that? Or we went down. Great. We're going, towards low risk. So definitely use this report. A lot goes into it. A lot of work on our end, and it's a really great tool. Something new for 2027 in the risk assessment report is there are indicator scores. So do you see the indicators? This year, you'll go ahead and be able to see the actual sub indicators or where you earned points. So you have points given out of points possible. Points possible can be different amongst all LEAs. So we're not going to, penalize you for something that isn't relevant for you. And you want to look at it like it's golf. Okay. So the lower number score, the better. So we want lower number of points given.
Before we go on to the next one, can I just find out who here has accessed your risk assessment in the past year? Just give me a thumbs up or raise your hand.
Okay, Kristen has.
Stephanie Miller. Okay, good. It's a valuable tool, and it definitely will help you see just kind of a wide array of data that has been collected and some things that you may or may not know.
This is another question.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I would like to ask a question just because you're on a call with more of the single sites, and usually our grant amounts are a little bit smaller than some of the big districts. It is correct that we are penalized if we are not doing at least monthly reimbursement requests, no matter how small the grant is. Is that correct? Like it shows up as a higher risk in the risk assessment?
Not this, starting with 27, no. We have removed that as an indicator because what's most important is the percentage of your drawdowns. Like out of the total amount that you had, how much are you carrying over into the next year?
And then Shanna asked if you can go back a slide and show how to get to the risk assessment again. Oh,
yeah.
I see you doing it. Thank you.
And we're also going to provide these slides too, so you can walk through it. But this is another thing if you have questions about, or you're like, I'm not quite understanding this, or where that comes from, that email address I shared earlier, gm.training, you can reach out to us and we can walk you through the steps of setting up a meeting. And we're happy to kind of take some time virtual and go through page by page and answer any questions that you may have. Because it's such a useful tool, we want you to really understand it and be able to utilize it. So if you have questions, please don't be afraid to ask. You can shoot us an email. We've done a few of these over the last couple of months, where we've met with LEAs and just page by page kind of got over, all the components of the risk assessment. So please feel free to reach out.
And Kristen, in 2026 and prior, the reimbursement count did matter. And it was a source of constant feedback from LEAs. And we had a lot of discussions about how relevant is that as a factor of risk. What is most important, you should be reconciling monthly. So if you're doing any journal entries, make sure that you're reconciling monthly. If you can do payroll draws regularly, what we don't want to happen, and what happens sometimes, especially for the smaller districts where one person is doing the job of many people and a wide variety of duties are assigned to one particular person, it's understandable that in those instances, sometimes something might get missed. And then after the project has ended, if those reconciliations aren't happening monthly, if those adjusting journal entries haven't been made while the project is open, we run into LEAs that now they've missed the opportunity to revise a budget and get those expenses that should have been moved to the right funding source moved. or if the completion report is significantly late after that 90 calendar days to draw down, you risk being able to claim those expenses for that eligible period. So is it best practice? Probably at least monthly to do drawdowns. But is it required? Is it going to impact your risk? No.
I appreciate that change very much, considering we would only get several $1,000s for Title II. So I appreciate that the feedback was received and the change was made.
Yes. And we like feedback. So it's not just the large districts that get, you know what I mean? We have to consider our smaller districts. We have to consider our rural, remote areas as well. So please continue to provide feedback. You do have a voice and we like to hear it.
Okay, this kind of ties into what Nicole and Kristen were just talking about as well, is another report that we offer to you. This is the fiscal monthly report. So this is a report that's uploaded into your LEA document library monthly, and it keeps track of all of your grants and where you are at with reimbursements. So this is just a good way to kind of track yourself. It also helps your grant coordinator. They might say, you know, I'm going to reach out and see if there's anything I can do to help or any questions you may have. So on the right hand of this slide, you'll see there's a picture of what the fiscal monthly report looks like. So there's red, yellow, and green indicators. We always tell folks that best practice is to draw down monthly. Obviously, like Kristen just brought up, that's not possible in all situations. So you know what works best for your organization, and your grants coordinators are going to do. You know, they're not going to come call you every month knowing, okay, they have like $5,000 here and maybe it's being saved for a summer program or something like that. The biggest things you want to pay attention to on this report is any deadlines. You want to pay attention to when the grant project ends. Not all grants allow carryover. Any revisions that are done will have to be approved by the last day of the project. So all of those due dates, you're going to want to just make sure that you're not losing out on any of that funding. And this is a good opportunity for you to have check-ins too with your staff if there's other people who are doing completion reports or reimbursement requests. A good way to maybe have like a monthly meeting just to see where you're at on things, because we don't want you being awarded money that you don't end up being able to use. So similarly to how you would locate the risk assessment, this is also in your LEA document library. So you would do the same first steps. You would toggle to that LEA document library, choose your fiscal year. So right now we're working 26 is where you see the upload. And you'll scroll down, you'll see FY26 fiscal monthly reports. You can expand that folder, and we do it by quarter. So right now we're in quarter 3. The most recent report would have been your February report. And you will see your March one being uploaded here within the next couple of weeks.
All right. We are running short on time. I see we have less than a minute left, but it's time for another quick pop quiz. You want to know how often you will be fiscally monitored by grants management fiscal monitors? What tool does ADE Grants Management use to determine prioritization and frequency of monitoring LEAs? Is it A, your indirect cost supplement, B, your annual financial report, C, your risk assessment report, or D, your monthly fiscal report?
Excellent. A lot
Yes,
of C's.
it is the risk assessment. Thank you. Most importantly, we are here to help. So please make sure that you're using help desk tickets, either from the GME homepage at the very bottom. You can access the help desk through this help desk external link. If you're on our website, we have a hotline. If you need to reach someone in tech or training, it's option 1. Fiscal processing, your grants coordinators, that's option 2. And fiscal monitoring, option 3. We have people on the phones from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, sometimes a little before, sometimes a little after. But we are definitely here to help. And our primary goal is to make sure that the money is only flowing in your direction. We don't want any funds returned to us. We don't want people forfeiting money or waiving money or having disallowed cost findings that require the return of funds. So thank you for having us. I'm sorry to rush at the end, but it is time for us.
No, thank you so much for sharing that information. I really appreciate hearing the nuanced difference between the different areas of GME. I just kind of always thought it was housed together, and you could just call anyone and they would let us know. So I think that was very, very helpful to share with everyone. And then to everyone on this call, I will be sharing the presentation and the recording of this webinar with all of you once it is available. So I will be following up with that. And we will move on to the next. Thank you again. I just want to say, Kristen and Nicole, thank you so much. We appreciate you having you here. And yeah, you can stay with us or you can excuse yourselves at this time. Either one is fine.
I will stay so that I can be here for Sharka. Yes.
Okay. All right. Right. Well, I would like to welcome our next guest speaker. And I'm going to ask, because I've heard it pronounced both ways, right? I thought it was Sarka, but then I've heard Sharka. So I want to get it correct for everyone here.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Probably have the funniest answer ever. I actually do not know. So the reason I say that is I'm hearing impaired and I can't tell when people say it. So as long as your mouth is moving in the right general direction, it all sounds great to me. No, it actually is both. My name is actually spelled incorrectly in English. And so both are acceptable. And so both, I guess it's whatever I'm feeling in the moment. So today it can be whichever. So,
okay. Well, I will say welcome then to Dr. Sarka or Sharka White. And she's the Deputy Associate of ESEA Consolidated Programs. So this is the program areas for GME, another component under the umbrella of GME. She's also with ACT Prep, Literacy and Math Coaching, Conmigo, and Navi. And I definitely have questions about Navi at the end of this call.
I can try my best. So,
okay. So please welcome.
Thank you. Okay. To share my entire screen.
And I'm sorry. Yeah, we have Google because
nope, it's fine.
Okay.
I wish I would have been on to support earlier. I know Nicole said she's going to stay, but I'm at a site visit like I was last year. So I'm trying to do a bazillion things. So I was trying to navigate with their internet. It does a little bit of strange things. So can I, Kristen, I can see you on my screen. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Because now my screen's all blank. So thank you everybody for having me today. As Kristen gave me a great introduction, I'm Sharka White. I am the Deputy Associate Superintendent over Title I and a variety of other programs. And today specifically going to talk about a couple of them. And this is a really good opportunity to talk about a grant that will be opening on April 1st. It is a semi-competitive grant that is originated through Title I funds and is afforded to school districts and schools across the state. And I think this is really timely for rural and smaller school districts across the state, because this is a way that if you apply for these funds, you can exponentially grow your programs without having to rely on the funding formula for Title I. And so if you have heard about this program before, it's specific to students that possibly qualify for Title I, but possibly do not. But it's all schools that are looking to focus on low achieving, and I'll go a little bit more into that. But for the example that I want to use is, so for a school district about the size of Bisbee, they are not able to qualify for substantial amount of funds through their Title I programs to offer services. And the Direct Student Services Grant is an additional grant that schools like Bisbee and others have been able to apply for now in Arizona to add up to $100,000 to their funding to extend or implement brand new programs for student success. So it is truly a wonderful program. And to talk about, we've already had two different rounds so far through FY26. And the beauty of that is that people that applied in round one were also allowed to apply in round two. So when I use that example for Bisbee, they could potentially get up to $200,000 extra to do work for kids. And so if you just think about that for a minute, from your district's perspective, how profound that would be to provide reading and math instruction or tutoring or ACT prep for your kids. That's huge. So this is the opportunity that I'm sharing today for what is called round 3, but that's through FY27 funding that will be opening on April 1st. So thinking about how this has looked so far, is that the top counties that you see, there were 10 of them. Maricopa, of course, has already been the top county that was awarded so far, mostly because of the schools and how many schools there are. But you can see the other top 10 counties that are within that, all the way go to Cochise, Pima, Pinal, and even Gila County. All got substantial amount of funds this round, and this is in the amount of millions of dollars, not anything less. So, Gila County got, upwards of $250,000 fed into, and in, Mojave County or Yuma County, upwards of, almost $350,000 or more to their counties to do additional work. And then to kind of do a breakdown, you can see the breakdown of how the last 2 cycles went for districts versus charters by county. Definitely districts are taking advantage of this funding more. And so as I bring this to you, it is a amazing opportunity to consider. And so this is really timely because I know you are all filling out your plans for this upcoming year. And so this can weave right into your title planning, so that you can extend programs or maybe implement a new program that you otherwise would not be able to afford. So on our website, it's currently under construction and moving, but all of the resources are going to be there, including a paper copy of the application. If you want to look at what the application looks like, you can go into the ones for FY26, the cohort 1 and 2. It's basically going to be the same. I will highlight the changes so that you can get started working on this grant so that you can turn it in as fast as possible. So one of the things that is really important with this grant is the timeline of submission, because one of the factors that we will probably need to use as a last minute determiner of who is awarded and who is not is whether it will be the timestamp of the application that is turned. So program options, this time around, if you're familiar with the grant, there is a little bit of a nuance of change. There will be 3 different options for this grant cycle for round 3. So artificial intelligence tutoring is one, principally Conmigo. The reason we highlight Conmigo, and you will get the link so you can learn a little bit more if you're unfamiliar with it. Conmigo is boasting really good results in the state of Arizona. When it comes to terms of student success and teacher support. So the nice thing about this is that while the state is highlighting and making it one of its initiatives for artificial intelligence tutoring, Conmigo offers a lot of support for teachers as well. And so while you can use other vendors for AI tutoring, Conmigo is a very low cost option, and it is one that the state does support. If you choose to use a different vendor, you will need to give a really robust rationale as to how it is going to support your students and how you're going to gather the data, because one of the things for monitoring is you will need to be able to prove the data back to us. And so if you are not going to choose Conmigo, please just make sure in your application you're really robust in your answers with whatever option you choose to use. And same thing with ACT Prep. ACT Prep is another option. So if you are kind of focused and you know you have a need there, it is one of the foci and the initiatives that we're going to be utilizing with this funding. Varsity Tutors is one of the options. But again, you can use other options, but one that we see that does really good results around the state for not only just current funding people with the Direct Student Services Grant, but also other funding mechanisms. The outcomes for Varsity Tutors is quite impressive. And then the last one are literacy and math coaches. So this one is really intriguing because it is not a direct student program. However, it is a direct instructional enhancement program. And so through the literacy and math coaches, you can exponentially grow your core instruction or your intervention programs. But you would need to choose one of the different approved methods to do so. And so NIAT is the one that is listed here. We did have a number of LEAs that did use NIAT, and their results are absolutely fantastic. We also do have literacy coaches that are with ADE, and that is also a portion of this program or a part of this program. And so if you're thinking about, hey, what would that look like for me to apply? These are the 3 options for applications this year. Our department and my group can help you ahead of time, help determine if one of these options are for you. But once the application comes open, we will not be able to physically help you with the application, but we can help you with all of the planning and prep work ahead of this grant opening. Now, part of these funds, if you remember what I talked about earlier, is these are a portion of funds that are derived from Title I. So there is a set priority for these funds for the award. So I also already mentioned get it turned in early because we will use that in the last minute. But the priority for these funds are for districts who have schools that are in school improvement. So that's first priority. So if you are a district that has some schools in school improvement, you will be given priority over schools that or districts that do not if the applications score similarly. And then likewise, if you are an LEA that maybe has schools in school improvement, but you do not wish to use these funds for that initiative, you want to use it for other schools in the initiative, that bottom bullet there is that if you choose to do that, you can. You just have to make sure you really justify it because you basically have to prove how you're going to prioritize students and give that rationale of why that is really, really needed. And then we will take a look at that and determine whether or not that's sufficient for funding purposes. So now a great enhancement piece for these funds is there is a change. So that top bullet there, when I said you could get up to the bottom bullet, which was $100,000, the top one used to be $10,000. So if you had an LEA, a total LEA that had less than 1,200 students, you had a maximum allotment of up to $10,000. Well, as we know, that's not a lot when we're thinking about making institutional change for students. And so we have increased by double to $20,000. We did an analysis over the last couple of cycles to see which had the highest impact and which funding threshold to set. So that has been increased for this cycle and go around. And then you can see that, again, if you have up to more than 10,000 students, it's up to 100,000. But that middle band is important because that middle band has the biggest flexibility. So if you have between 1,200 students and 10,000 students in a district, you could get up to $50,000 of an award. And so that will be determined based on the quality of project and the ask for the cost for whichever need you have. But even if you had 1,200 students, we could award you that $50,000 award. Okay, so I will take questions at the end, but for NAVI formative assessments, this is another enhancement that the department is providing right now predominantly for schools that are in school improvement is a must. But one of the options that I'm here to share with you today is that we are seeking to offer this for all schools and school districts in the state of Arizona. So one of the things that's unique about NAVI is that the formative assessments are 100% completely aligned to AASA. So if you remember, if you've got other benchmark systems and you notice that your benchmark system is telling you that your kids are on track, but then they take the state assessment and you have a big variance in actual performance, that sometimes can be because the assessments are not completely aligned. But that's not the case here. And then our goal is to have it be at no cost to schools. We know that school districts are entering into contracts now for benchmark assessments. And I know Michelle has shared at a couple of other meetings that we're not quite able to say, yes, that's a thing, but I know that they're in contract negotiations right now, and that is the ultimate goal. Currently, Navi is being used by over 100 LEAs across the state currently, with over 150,000 students took assessments in January with very promising results. So now moving into what that looks like for next year, our goal is to have, based on this contract, formative assessments to be available for any public school in the state. Now, the benchmarks are still going to be required for schools and school improvement. So if you have a school that is identifies the school and school improvement, please look for that information, but that is still going to be a requirement for you. And the last hope there, that last one, was that Michelle Udall had shared in one of her previous presentations that she really hopes that we will have all benchmarks across all the way for every grade 3 through 8 in math and in ELA for this upcoming year. And so currently where we're at in that process is, I believe we're a couple of weeks out still, but the formative assessments are going to be included in the newest RFP for the new statewide assessment. So that does come up this year. And so I do know that that's going to be part of it. So currently we're looking to put it part of our current package for everybody, but then moving forward, it is included to be moving forward. And then ultimately that goal is to make sure that formative assessments are provided by the state moving forward, meaning that that is a state constant current, kind of like ESCA now, where we do that for districts and pay for it at the state level, but that every school and school district can use it. And that then they can use the entire suite that is within the NAVI program. Okay. So I am going to stop sharing so I can take questions.
And feel free to raise your hand or put your question in the chat. I'll go ahead and start since I don't see any hands yet. And I told you I had that question about Navi. So we have been using Galileo, which is not very aligned to the state assessment. I'm going to be quite honest about that. We have been using the Navi formative assessment. I think it's great. So I do want to say that for anyone else on the call. We reached out to Navi to ask them if we could get their benchmark system for next year because Galileo is going away. And they said, you have to talk to ADE about that. So I am wondering if there is a way to purchase the Navi benchmark if ADE does not provide it, because Navi is telling us it is all through ADE at this moment.
Yeah, I think currently the way that the agreement is structured is that it is currently only those. And so they're not able to offer because the way that the SMS and the LMSs are working, I actually don't know if we will be able to offer it any other way because the way that the data is traveling and the way that the items are being uploaded. But I would say that if it is not, I think that's probably the goal. I think right now, Michelle and the team are really focused on making sure that they can provide it at 100% no cost to school districts and that we can make sure that all of that data is coalesced under the same, contract label. But if not, and there's no way to come to resolution, I'm quite positive then it would be just like what we did with Conmigo when we were able to give so many millions of dollars. There was that additional piece of, okay, well then what now for all of those that we can't do? And we were able to negotiate that separate thing. And so I would say, I don't know that that would be for certainty, but I would say that that would be the second option. But that, at least right now, we're extremely focused on making sure we can ensure that we can do it at no cost. But what I can do is I can take that back to it, because I don't know where we're at in that process, but I can take it back and ask those questions and see and make sure that, we get an answer back, Kristen, so we can send it out on where we're at. But I would say that that would be a distinct possibility if it is a possibility with the vendor.
I appreciate that. I would like to say, instead of purchasing another benchmarking that I'm unfamiliar with, that I don't know if it aligned, and I would rather get Navi, but I don't know if I'm eligible to. And so it would just be much appreciated, even if we had to pay for it ourselves, to be able to do that benchmarking.
Yeah, and I would say if you're not sure, so there were some districts and some of the presentations that weren't sure that they were eligible, but you can check with school improvement and make sure whether or not your school was on the list and whether or not you received the communications and so on. And what would that look like for the upcoming year? Because I know that new schools will be brought on to school improvement while some schools fall off. So if you are suspecting that you're going to be a school improvement school, I would say please reach out to school improvement to ask what that's going to look like for the next, coming year as they're doing identifications. And the reason I say that is there is always going to be a lag between when some of these decisions are going to be made and potentially when your school or district would be identified as a school, having a school that's in school improvement, and you don't want to miss that window. And so I know I don't believe that they've published any of that information yet, but if you already have a relationship with school improvement because of schools in improvement, or, you suspect that, I would say you probably would want to reach out and just double check.
Great. Are there any questions from anyone else on the phone call? I will ask, just because it was brought up at our last meeting, for the school safety grant, the new one that is coming out this year, is that through the program areas? If people have questions about the application process for school safety, someone could reach out to you and you could help direct them for that grant as well.
Yeah, so school safety is under Mike Kirkenbach, but if you were to reach out to grants management or reach out to the ESE inbox, we do a really good job of making sure we get people where they need to go. So if it's not a program area that my team is principally over, we will get you to the exact place where you need to go. And I know Nicole's team would do the same thing. So feel free, if you're unsure who to contact and you can't figure it out, just contact who you know and we'll get you there.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm going to drop in chat the school safety link to their homepage.
Thank you. You're faster than I right now. My computer's a little slow. I opened a tab to do that. So thank you.
Wonderful. I just want to say I appreciate having you both join us today, or all three of you join us today. It was very helpful to hear, again, the nuances and to hear about the different programs, especially ones that are new, upcoming changes that are happening in the department. So I really appreciate that. To all of our single site leaders, I just want to say thank you for joining us. I will be following up with an email that has all of this information. And then Rose, did you have a question? Oh, there we go. Thank you. So again, thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording at this time. It will be shared out. Feel free to share it with anyone who may need it. I will send both presentations to all of you and a follow-up email. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.